Arachnophobia is defined as an irrational repulsion organics have for the arachnid family of species. Most Imperial officers have it, and I bet you do too, which in this current rotation's holoreel would be justified. Greetings, fellow organic Imperials. Now, we don't normally talk about aliens on this channel, probably because we're not allowed to in most cases. But this time, it's different, as we've been given exclusive permission to talk to you all about a very dangerous alien race, because these aliens are just one among many of the followers of Count Dooku.
Indeed, Droid. It should not come as any surprise to you all that there is absolutely nothing all Imperials, myself included, hate more than the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Ugh. So that is why we welcome you all to the Ando system. And today, we are going to be talking about the reclusive spider folk that live here, because there is no alien race quite as dystopian as the Harch.
Yeah, not even close.
Ugh. Wow, you've just ruined the intro. Congrats.
Well, maybe get your facts right next time.
Oh, come on. Seriously, you're doing this now?
What, you sent me on this mission?
Yeah, I did, and I didn't expect you to start being so insubordinate right before we were about... Spotting a Harch is easier said than done. Covered in hair with 6 piercing red eyes, 6 extremely dexterous arms, and a short but stocky stature, these 6-armed freaks call the Aqualish their neighbours, and they reside next to Secundus Ando on the planet Ando within the Ando system. Really creative names here, I know, but Harches are not aliens you will need to worry about seeing in galactic society, as the majority of them prefer not to venture beyond their own planetary borders.
Before the Major starts jumping to conclusions, I should let you know that he's busy up there sitting comfortably on his ass in his air-conditioned Star Destroyer, while he sent me here to do this in an abandoned cantina. At least it gets us all away from that clicking that the Harches love to do when they speak.
What faulty production line did you come out of?
When and if you ever get the chance to see Secundus Ando itself, it will not take long for you to understand just what the Harch have done to this planet. These self-absorbed arachnid tyrants have turned our planet into a less than ideal place to live. Factories, construction sites and natural resource gathering facilities, purpose-built to help these spiders do what they do best, and that is suck the life out of their prey. In this case, that would be their home planet. Said life is then funneled into the Harchic war machine. That's right, these are spiders that crave violence and conflict. You know what else they love? Cowering away in caves and burrows. Geographically, Secundus Ando is perfect for them, as vast subterranean networks permeate the planet and are a great place to visit if you want to avoid the majority of the Harch population, or even if you just get tired of the smokestack-filled skyline and instead want the stunning view of a stone wall outside your Harchic overnight accommodation. Not the best breakfast, I hear. Which, if this cantina is anything to go by, that's probably true. But the cave networks, surprisingly enough, are not the most unique biome the planet has to offer.
Before the droid here starts jumping to conclusions, isn't it important that the audience understands some important context surrounding Harch culture, or rather, lack thereof?
No. You should explain that one.
And why should I do that?
You're the organic here, and dreary topics such as that have never been a part of my cognitive parameters, let's just say.
Harches have no distinct, greater unified cultural identity. What do I mean by this? Well, when you look at an alien race like the eternal enemies of the Empire, the Mon Calamari, their cultural identity has formed around their love of very illegal anti-imperial starship building and strategizing, something that is so beloved and cherished by the googly-eyed ocean dwellers to such a degree that even the architecture of most, if not all, their cities reflects the ships of their MC lines, with art, performance, engineering, laws and ethics being a big part of how the Mon Calamari express themselves to the galaxy. That is the Mon Calamari culture, focusing on brilliant engineering. But we're talking about the Harch, not the Mon Calamari, and Harches are so individualistic to such a degree that it would make some of us Imperials reevaluate our own behaviour. This self-centred nature manifests itself in a fractured and largely hostile society towards each other and everyone else beyond their own planetary borders, being an extremely antisocial civilization. For that you can thank the very rich, influential Harchic families that have dug their fangs into this sad excuse for society to exert an almost totalitarian degree of control, influence and manipulation over the population. These families are known as the Harch ruling nest, and they are the ones responsible for pushing the anti-galaxy sentiment of these arachnids to the extreme, as almost all Harches are subservient to this all-encompassing aristocracy, consisting of many different family names all across the planet.
Okay, TIE pilot, you've said your piece. If you ever do decide to somehow visit Secundus Ando, not that you will, but if you do, stay away from any arboraceous woodland biomes, because these are the designated parks reserved for the ruling nest, and are some of the most lavish, expensive and heavily protected parts of the planet, making them perfect places for scheming whatever grand web of plans they have, as their estates reside atop vast trees that I hear might even give the Rocheers of Kashyyyk a run for their credits. But most, or rather all, lower class Harchic citizens will never be able to afford to live in places like these, and are thus resigned to the aforementioned industrial cities where pollution and atmospheric smog run rampant. They really don't care about the environment, do they, Major? I mean, is that all the Separatists are good for?
Is it really that bad? Not surprising.
I don't see why High Command does not crack down on these Separatist scum. They could be working with the rebels for all we know.
Well, all things considered, these Separatist scum don't really care who the highest bidder is, or what their allegiances are, so long as they've got the credits now. Please continue.
While their self-centred societal structure has only until recently prevented them from amassing a unified military force that can work towards a common goal, the Harches are no strangers to violence, as skirmishes between smaller, organised groups are commonplace in the streets and passageways of those industrial cities. Because you can bet that cruelty is a way of life here, as Harches have become increasingly militaristic, profiting handsomely off war and conflict through the weapons they sell to off-world markets, warmongering factions and civilizations, and about as many shady clients that you can think of. Definitely anti-Imperial behaviour, more reminiscent of their Separatist days.
Behaviour of which you'll definitely see a lot of first-hand should you decide to visit Secundus Ando. Not that you ever will.
So why did they become Separatist? Well, Harches despise the Republic due to what they believe to be unjust restrictions on their rights, meaning they were unable to attain what wealth they could from their involvement in the conflict with the Andoan Free Colonies, which is a whole story in and of itself. So when none other than the Confederacy of Independent Systems came knocking at their doorstep, promising both riches in exchange for weapons, and a chance to get back at the Republic for denying them their spoils of war, well, let's just say that they were absolutely willing to forego their anti-galaxy sentiment for just a moment, as the enemy of their enemy was their ally, you could say. And for the first time, the Harch managed to collectively militarise, assembling a proper, organised frontline force focused on a common goal to kick the Republic in the ass.
I feel it is important for me to step in here and mention that while the ruling nest do not want a galaxy-spanning empire in the traditional sense, there was at one point a major focus on creating a more aristocratic empire of the sorts, one that places emphasis on wealth and influence with attempts to even improve the living conditions of Secundus Ando. How the Harches of all aliens would have done that remains unclear, but the ruling nest and their networks of informants was and is certainly not stagnant, that's for sure.
Say, Major, since we're on the subject of influential things within Harch society, what was the name of that Separatist Admiral everyone keeps gushing about?
Oh, you mean Admiral Trench. I mean, where to even begin with this guy?
So what's even so special about this Harch? You military types keep going on and on about him.
Well, Droid, Admiral Trench was a highly revered figure both within the circles of naval fanatics and especially within the society of his home world. Even now, many decades on, Trench is revered among his people, holding the status of a mythological figure, and it is not hard to see why. He was a decorated Separatist admiral and intelligent strategist, hitting the Republic hard in the many skirmishes of the Clone Wars, certainly giving them a run for their credits. And while he may have not had the same finesse or sophisticated decision making as someone like Thrawn, for example, for the Clone Wars he was a threat to be taken seriously by Republic forces, as he could dominate a head-to-head capital ship battle.
Oh wow, he could manage a few ships, is that all? Half your viewers' captains or admirals can do the same thing.
Yes, that is true. But here is a fact about Trench you might like to know. From what biological records we could dig up, Trench was unusually large for a Harch. No, he wasn't fat, he was 6 feet tall, and this is strange because the bigger a Harch is, the heavier, and that can potentially affect their quality of life. But maybe this bigger mass is rather fitting of Trench, given his love of frequently boasting his achievements to any enemy he came across. From my own well-informed experience, this kind of behaviour in battle is usually an easily recognisable sign of overconfidence, a dangerous mindset often exploited by more cunning adversaries, something often overlooked that has toppled empires. In Trench's case, this would come back to bite him in the spinnerets, however.
It's been so long since I had a worthy opponent. Retreat while you can, for I am your doom. The droids are going to overwhelm the Jedi. They don't stand a chance. Your technology will not save you, and your friends on the planet below shall perish. Yes. Now I will use their arrogance and desperation to our advantage.
To Trench, fleet warfare was like a game in which he was ruthless and merciless, destroying enemy ships without any regard for their crew or how such destruction would affect nearby planets or settlements, and vocally sharing his love of winning these battles and the carnage he often brought to the game.
I appreciate your decision to face me ship to ship, to play this little game.
As such, he became notorious among the veteran admiralty of the Republic, striking fear into the hearts of those pitted against him, all except for the Force users, the Jedi. During the Republic's attempted aid of the planet Christophsis, Trench had the planet's orbit totally locked down. Nothing was getting in or out, so the Republic opted to use their highly specialised IPV-2C stealth corvette. Trench, having dealt with this kind of stuff before, considered himself adept at combating the usage of such ship types, making this next screw-up of his so fascinating to look back upon.
You have an impressive new vessel, but I warn you, I have dealt with its kind before.
Hey Major.
Yes?
What do you lose when you combine a Jedi General, a stealth-cloaking starship, and overconfidence?
That would be half of your face and your prized capital ship for good measure, as the corvette had managed to outfly and lead the Invincible's own torpedoes straight at its own bridge. But this Harch's story did not end here. Somehow. However, the injuries Trench would receive from this were very severe, to say the least, and this wouldn't be the last time he would come across the Jedi General Skywalker, and it's unfortunately an interaction he wouldn't learn from.
That's hilarious, and well deserved too.
In some grand cosmic miracle, he had managed to survive a direct hit from several torpedoes, but Trench's survival came with a price, resulting in the loss of the left side of his skull, left chelicerae, and 3 of his left side arms, which were replaced and kitted out with some of the best cybernetics the Separatists could offer, and, certainly not one for days off, he would thus be put right back into active duty, as if nothing had actually occurred, continuing his deployment in the many handful of conflicts on behalf of Dooku and the larger Confederate goal for the Clone Wars, further establishing himself as a force to be reckoned with on the field, and thanks to his seemingly impossible act of death defiance, his status as a deific figure among his people and the Republic's commanding naval officers would only be elevated.
Wasn't he involved in the Battle of Ringo Vinda?
Correct, he led the Separatist ground assault at the Ringo Vinda space station. That one was slow, however, as the clone legions of the 501st and 125th led an arduous assault to retake the large structure, which was unsuccessful considering it encircles the entire orbit of the planet Ringo Vinda itself. Heard that battle caused some of the clones to go a bit haywire though.
In what way?
Well, in shooting your Jedi General on the spot in the middle of a battle kind of way, but I don't have all the details and that is probably just word of mouth. Anyway, moving on. Now you, my fellow TIE pilots, know better than anyone that nothing can last. And in war, life is fragile and easily taken. Trench was no exception to this rule. And I suppose you could say it was a bit of a shame that the luck he had on his previous brush with death did not come to save him this time, although he had a lengthy and storied career that likely won't be forgotten, with a very dedicated service record in many battles against the Republic. However, it was the Anaxis conflict leading up to the final weeks of the Clone Wars, where Trench would meet his untimely demise.
As the Major said before, Trench would once again come face to face and be killed by Jedi General Skywalker, while attempting and ultimately failing to detonate a bomb that would tear Anaxis a new one. Trench's remains were unrecoverable, given his newest dreadnought at the time, the Invincible, was given the commands to self-destruct by the Republic's highly specialised Clone Force 99. Ensuring for good this time that this arachnid stayed dead, which was absolutely for the best. Last thing the Imperial Armada needs is some highly experienced Separatist Admiral scum helping the rebel war effort.
Huh, the droid knows more than it lets on. Well, to conclude that then, Harchic military leaders like Trench are hallowed within Harch culture, a fact very much indicative of the Harch's obsession with control, only natural given their literal spider people. Each and every Harch has a seeming intrinsic desire to spin its own web of destiny, to control their own individual wealth, group connections, infrastructure, corporation, physical capabilities, military force, or even an entire civilization in the case of the ruling nest. Trench secured his destiny by being more than successful in establishing a well-decorated military career, combining typical Harch aggressiveness and decisive tactical thinking to move quickly up the ranks of the Separatist Navy.
But that still does not change the fact that the living conditions of Secundus Ando would make even some of the rougher districts of Coruscant look like paradise. But Harches ultimately put up with it because they are in total servitude to the ruling nest, and it is those extreme aristocratic systems that prevent most individuals within this civilization from attaining little in the way of any significant wealth, unless they have direct relations to those families. This results in whatever culture they do have being one of petty squabbles and attempts to attain what superiority they can through anti-galaxy sentiment and antagonistic behaviour to each other and anyone outside of their home world. And that's why you don't see any significant number of them out in the galaxy.
Harches are greedy, is what we're trying to say. And that all sounds pretty damn dystopian to me.
Affirmative, yes. Although, I will admit that I have processed a lot of new information on this mission about these tyrannical arachnids. You could even say I have enjoyed doing this.
You know what, given your feelings on Separatist, that's a change for once. Glad to hear it, KRM2. But I think I have had enough of these aliens for one day. A bit too megalomaniacal for me.
Alright, get me a shuttle so I can get out of here.
Oh. Yeah, bad news, Droid.
What?
Seems I won't be able to get you a shuttle off-world for the next 36 hours.
The next 36 hours, you say? I have helped you with this holorail. I have ventured into the heart of Separatist territory and neglected my duties as an Imperial droid just to be here. And you can't even organise a transport off this hellhole of a planet. Aren't you supposed to be some kind of pilot? Can't you just hop in one yourself?
He'll get over it. He has to. He's a droid. So, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, comment and subscribe to become a part of the Empire today. And with that, long live the Empire and may the Force be with you.